Hello, everybody. I wanted to come on and talk to you about why I chose Sidereal over the tropical system of astrology. Tropical is seen as mainstream astrology and is what you see in the magazines and newspapers. And I too was into astrology and following the magazines and newspapers like everyone else when I was growing up. And I really didn't have any clue about the difference between any systems. I just took it on face value that, they knew what they were talking about, and that was fine. I had my own astrology done by a professional, 20 years ago now, over 20 years ago. And it was through him that I discovered the difference between the two systems. Now, interestingly, I had a big wake-up call then because my sign was not what I thought it was. And then he explained what the difference was and why that happened. So there's currently approximately 23-degree difference between the two systems, and 23 degrees in astrology is a big difference. Okay, so why the difference? Okay, so tropical hasn't changed its model since the dawn of time, basically, whereas Sidereal has taken into account the movement of planet Earth to the constellations. So planet Earth is actually on a wobble. It wobbles up there and it changes like this, right? Think of it as a spinning top. As a result of that spin, that wobble, the position of the Earth to the constellations actually moves, it changes. And as I said, currently there's approximately 23 degrees difference in that. So this affects the Earth's position to the stars, the constellations. So the stars are actually fixed up there in the sky. And so because of the wobble, when it goes up against something that's actually fixed, of course it's going to move, right? Now, the planets, of course, they continue to move, and so under the two systems, the tropical and sidereal, the planetary angles are the same. It is the position to the constellations that changes. Now that creates a problem when people are taking on face value that astrology is all about sun signs and where you are, where your sun sign is in your chart. Now, astrology is quite complex, and it is way bigger than just your sun sign. It's not only what the sun is angled to, it's what the planets are angled to and where they are in terms of the constellations, okay? And that's all measured by scientifically, it's all measured mathematically, it's all measured. So if you were to ring up NASA and ask them the position of the sun or Jupiter or Pluto or Saturn on a certain date, you would get the answer that aligns with sidereal, because sidereal is astronomically correct in terms of the constellations, right? Now, my own experience was this with this was that I thought that I was a Gemini under the tropical system, and so I bought into that, and I actually tried to fit the mold of what a Gemini was supposed to be in terms of a sun sign, and I didn't fit. It just didn't resonate that strongly, and I was quite frustrated because as a lot of us, we sort of think, well, that's what's supposed to be right, and why am I not fitting that? And when I went to my professional astrologer, it was he who explained all about astronomy and this 23-degree difference that's actually happening. And it was through him that I actually started getting an interest in stargazing, because I wanted to see for myself. Now, if you wanted to have any proof of this, because this is just my word against all the tropical mob, right? The last full moon that we had also involved an eclipse. And because of that, you could clearly see the moon and the constellation that it was in. And it was clearly, visually, in the constellation of Scorpio, where the tropical mob said it was supposed to be in Sagittarius. Well, it was not. And it was very, very easy to see it. Now, it wasn't on the edge of Scorpio going into Sag. It was clearly in the constellation of Scorpio. Those that know astronomy will know that Scorpio is this huge, massive constellation in the sky. You can't miss it. Well, you will miss it if you think if that's big. It's not. It's massive, and it was clearly between the head of Scorpio and the brightest, the Alpha star, which is Antares. It was between those two, and it was very, very visible in the sky. And now you can test this yourself by learning to do some stargazing. That is how you're going to switch your thinking as to where the moon is every month, because it's likely not in the constellation that you think it is in. It's in the previous one. So taking into account the 23 degrees. Now, not only that, but psychologically, the position of the planets and stars affect you. And so when you're doing transformation work, self-awareness work, you want to know who you are. Now, the stars are, they are forces that influence all of us, right? Forces affect us. We are energy. We're not, we might be in matter, but we're not, we're actually energy. And we are affected by everything. And that includes the stars and the planets. That energy is an influence on us. The stars and planets will influence us. And we want to get the most accurate reading that we can on who we are. Now, that's not for me to tell you that because you've got a particular blueprint that that's who you are. There is a language that comes with astrology that is quite a complex one. However, it's worth knowing. It's worth learning who you are, what is influencing you, what's your astral body. And this is another reason why I took on the Sidereal system, because psychologically, I was getting more value, more resonance out of the Sidereal system than I was the tropical. It just didn't fit with my experiences and how I was acting in the world. And once I did find out my blueprint in terms of Sidereal, things started to make sense, and I could navigate these forces much more easily than if I had stayed with the tropical system. So this is something for you to start seeing for yourself. Start to learn a bit of astronomy, bit of stargazing. Get out there and start seeing what the constellations look like. Find the Alpha star in the constellations. That might make it easier for you. There's so much on Google now that will help you to do just that. You can we used to have planispheres, and we'd hold them up and be able to map the sky. It is well worth doing, and it also helps you in terms of there is a talk that has been done on stargazing, and that is really quite beneficial. So actually being able to map the constellations in the sky, once you know that, you know a few of them, you don't have to be an expert on it. Then when the moon phases happen and when the full moon happens, you will be able to see which constellation it's in. You'll be able to see that for yourself. Okay, so it's a physical experience that you have. Astrology and astronomy in the ancient days were one and the same thing. They weren't separate. The ancients had the skill to be able to tune into the forces that each planet and constellation emitted. They could feel that in their body, in their persona. They mapped it, just like the Chinese did the meridians. It must have been extraordinary, painstaking, such a long time to actually map all of what they found. And that today is still being used. And interestingly, the language of astrology was the first psychology. That was the first psychology. In fact, Astral, the astral body, Aster relates to our psyche. The soul equals psyche, and the influence of the planets and stars is what makes up our psyche, our soul, our ego, if you like, right? Our ego. The planets and stars influence how we operate. So knowing the right system is really, really helpful. So if you know people that, find that under that other system, the tropical system, things just don't make sense to them, then perhaps it might be worth changing over to Sidereal, and that might give those people a bigger picture of what planets and stars are doing for them. Okay, so just remember that the newspapers and magazines, it's so generalized, it's ridiculous anyway. So if you really want to get into understanding energetic influences, I highly recommend the Sidereal system of astrology. So I hope you've enjoyed this and you have a better understanding of both systems of astrology. Okay, bye for now.